Yo, what's good everyone? Welcome to another video. Today this is going to be a Feral Druid update on some of the previous talent builds and things that I've discussed in another video, but I want to just condense it all down, make it quick fire, talk you through talents, legendaries, shrouded AFFIX, all the different scenarios and different dungeons where I would do different things. So let's jump straight into it without further ado. So this is assuming that you're playing Night Fae. If you are playing Necrolord, that's a very specific build that you would be, that I'm not really going to discuss too much in this video because I'm playing Night Fae, most people playing Night Fae. I think it's fair to make this about Night Fae. So that's number one, you're playing Night Fae. Then I want to just kind of discuss a little bit about Shrouded AFFIX. So if you're playing a Circle build, I think you're just going to play Haste. If you're playing a Frenzy Band or an Apex build, I think Crit is really good there in those scenarios because of what you're trying to do with those legendaries. And I want to talk about these three legendaries in general, right? Frenzy Band, Apex, and Circle, and talk about what you're trying to do with these legendaries. Frenzy Band, it's good in single target, it's good in AoE, and it has burst, okay? So it's a nice general all-rounder, and it's nothing fancy. You don't really need to be in any specific situation for it to be particularly strong. But I think Frenzy Band is your general, that is just your standard legendary. If you're not sure what to go in a certain situation, Frenzy Band is just the go-to. Next, you have Apex. This is specifically a funnel legendary. What you're trying to do is have your rip on every single mob so that you can funnel damage into a particular mob. It'll do generally some pretty good overall damage, but it really shines in situations where specific funnel damage is more important than overall damage. And then you have Circle. The aim of Circle is for you to do as much damage as possible with the Sickle of the Lion effect from your 4-set, and to do as much damage as possible in your Primal Wrath situation. So you want big uncapped AoE for Circle to really shine. If you're on 1 to 2 targets, it's not really the best situation for it, or 3-4 mobs, not really the best situation for it. But if you're on 10 plus consistently through dungeon, then it's really good in those scenarios. So just piecing that together, think about different scenarios and different dungeons, and you can pretty much figure out where certain things are going to be good or not. But I'll take you through some of these dungeons. So, if you're running anything from a 15 to a 20 key, because a lot of people come and ask me on stream, what should I run? I'm only doing like 15 keys, I'm only doing 18 keys, something like that. What legendary should I run? And I would say to you, honestly, play the one that you just enjoy the most, because if you're doing plus 15 keys, you're doing your 8 weeklies, just play what's fun, because you're not really trying to push extensively. So just play what you enjoy. Don't go and spend tons of thousands of gold on 3 different legendaries when you don't really need it. So in those situations, I mean, the optimized legendary for me between 15 and 20 keys, those lower kind of ish keys, is Apex, because it's gonna just be good no matter what. Whereas Frenzy Band, mobs need to live 30 seconds, right? You need to do the full Berserk effect plus an additional 8 seconds to get the bleed off. So you need 30 seconds of mob life, which is really hard in 15 to 20 keys to get that. Circle also relies on these you do get some nice uncapped pulls in those scenarios, but Circle relies on big AoE consistently living for a decent amount of time. If things are dying in 10 seconds, you don't really get great value from Circle, in my opinion. So I would run Apex in those keys if you really want to optimize. Now, taking you through each individual dungeon, if you're doing slightly higher level keys, I would say Irondox is a fantastic Apex dungeon because of the way that if you do Zolgamux, then you can funnel onto Zolgamux with your Apex. Dreadfang needs to die, that's a prior target. You normally pull some trash onto this boss. If you kill these laborers and things, then you can funnel onto them as well. Then you have Dugru, which is a great another funnel target. Same with Koromar on the last boss, you want it to die ASAP. Oshia, you do have funnel on this boss, but it's intermittent and it's not really it's okay. But it's a nice consideration or a nice addition to the other locations in the dungeon where Apex is particularly good. You won't do the biggest overall in the world on this key with Apex, but you'll be doing the damage that matters in the scenarios that matter. So that's what I kind of run in Irondox. Now with that, obviously if you're running an Apex build, you'd be wanting to run Sabretooth, really important. You can run Soul, obviously Primal Wrath always, and then you can go MOC or Blood Talons. For me, they both sims close enough where I just play MOC. You have to play Blood Talons perfectly for it to be better than MOC, and honestly, I'm just not really bothered about playing Blood Talons in Mythic Plus. I don't enjoy it that much. I'd rather just play MOC. So that's what you'd play with like a, you know, I'll even spec these for you. That's the kind of thing you'd play. You'd play one of these two as well for an Apex or a Frenzy Band build. Either one is fine. So that's what you'd run in like Irondox. Workshop and Upper Karazhan are both very boss heavy. It doesn't matter which week it is, they're specifically boss heavy. That's the thing that's going to deplete the key for you, so you want to make sure you have big damage for those two scenarios. So Frenzy Band, really good in Workshop and Upper Karazhan. I wouldn't really run anything else. Grimrail and Junkyard are kind of weird because they're not really like, you know, on Fortified Week, the trash can be pretty, you know, pretty heavy. And, they're not uncapped AoE, but they're also like more AoE situations or bigger AoE situations than Workshop or Upper Karazhan. It really depends on the route that you're going to run. So if you know your team, if you know your route, then you can maybe get away with running Circle. Particularly in Junkyard, because Junkyard you're going to get the haste bot no matter what. You're always going to take the haste bot. But Grimrail Depot just depends on the route. If you're chaining and pulling big, then I'd go Circle. If not, I'd go Frenzy. Same with Junkyard. And you can play a haste build with Frenzy. That's fine in Junkyard. You can do it. But I think I did like a 27 Junkyard. And I did like 33k overall with Circle. I'd have to go double check that. But I'm pretty sure when I did look at it earlier, it was with Circle. So still pretty good in a Junkyard scenario. Upper, we already talked about that with Frenzy Band. Gambit and Lower Karazhan, I would just run Circle of Life and Death, no matter what week. This build, right? Just fantastic. I think you can play Blood Talons as well. You can play Sabretooth if you want to, but I like Predator, Savage, or MOC personally when I play Circle or, you know, in Gambit or Lower Karazhan. Then you have Streets. Streets is a bit of a weird one. I'm still playing around with this. I think you can get away with running like a full Circle build, but with Sabretooth in that dungeon. That's something that I'm going to try, but I haven't been able to test it yet. In the plus 30 streets that I did run Circle for the first 70% of the trash and 2 bosses, and then I spec'd to Frenzy Band and got like summoned back to the dungeon, ported back to the dungeon. I think you can get away with either or. It's a bit of an awkward dungeon. I think genuinely it's just going to be our lowest DPS dungeon because it's not fully single target, it's not fully AoE, so it's a little bit of an awkward one for us. In those uncapped AoE situations with Circle, we're doing really well. In those pure single target dungeons like Upper Karazhan or Workshop, we're doing really well. Streets is a bit of a muddled one for us. I think it's probably our worst dungeon personally for me. I've not been having great results in that dungeon. But for the Shrouded AFFIX, I don't know if I already spoke about this. Always crit with Frenzy Band and Apex, in my opinion. And with Circle, always grab Haste. But that's kind of like a rundown of the dungeons and what you're trying to do with your different legendaries. Now, when it comes to trinkets, when I'm running a Frenzy Band build, I like the Grenade. The reason being, I'm already getting all of my mastery from my stats, because I'm at 55% mastery. Plus, when I Convoke, I'm going to be at 77% mastery. So my mastery is already pretty decently high, to the point where I'd rather take that extra bit of verse, so that then, during my Frenzy Band window, my swipes are hitting like really hard, or my shreds are hitting really hard. And I mean, everything's going to scale from your verse, right? So I prefer running high verse with that build. Whereas if I'm running my Circle build, then I run the Mastery Trinket because I just want tons more Mastery. So that's fine to run that. And I'm just like at a flat 60% Mastery plus then the Trinket when it procs and Nia, which is nice. However, what I do want to do is I want to play with a Decanter from Sod, from Dormazane. And I think a Decanter would be really good because it's giving you more crit, and it's also giving you a big agility proc, which can proc whilst you're also in your Scars scenario. So you can be like 5 stacks of Scars, get an agility proc, and just do absolutely crazy damage. Plus, the effect of the Scars Trinket can crit. So the more crit you have, the more damage your Trinket's going to do as well. So it's really quite good. So yeah, I think running Scars is really good. What you do is you build it up to 4 stacks. Then when you're on massive AoE and you have cooldowns, or the boss has like 30 seconds left on him, and you also want to put cooldowns on them, then you can pop your 5 stacks of Scars. But generally, you know, 90% of the dungeon, I'm sitting at 4 stacks of Scars, and I just leave it like that. But you need to be careful with that, with this trinket, because if you die, then you lose your stacks. So something to just kind of like keep in mind. But those are the situations with different legendaries and different dungeons, different builds with talents and stuff, and different trinket kind of conversations. You can also run like Sigil, but I don't think Sigil, Sigil, I don't think Sigil is as good because it's a 5-minute CD, it's hard to line up. Eye of Command is fine if you're doing a mouse over macros to multi-target or interrupt or whatever, but for me, I switch targets a lot, so I wouldn't really like Eye of Command personally, but you can use it. Yeah, like I said, Sigil is chill, you can use Grenade, you can use Injector, you can use Scars, but that's the situation. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to come check me out on stream, twitch.tv/Cybear_TV, and I'll see you later. Take care.